This is the first one. This was the first one,
It's
right?
still there.
This is the second one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't really need this one, right?
Yeah, the new one, whatever's on the table is the most recent.
The one without the yellow is what we're working with.
I minimize it now?
Yeah, there you can start, you're good.
Okay. We're good? Yep. Now I'm live streaming, okay, yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call to order this meeting of the town council, and the first action I would like to entertain is to reverse the order of the discussion such that we do item 2 before item 1.
So moved.
So as to be able to dismiss the solicitor. After we do that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
For the record, Heather, I'm going to recuse myself from issues involving the Brownell House, as I'm the trustee of the Brownell House. I have to recuse myself from topic number, I don't have a topic, actually, reference to the $128,680 budget for the town solicitor. I'm going to recuse myself from that. And by default, I'll also recuse myself from item number 1, the review and consideration of the continuing drafting and acceptance of term of engagement for town solicitor. Those 3 things, I will hand you that as soon as I.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Then, considering the budget, we have for you, as promised, a single sheet summary. 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4 of the budget. And I would propose that we, since what we are voting on is the warrant, we will submit as a warrant input to the clerk. I would propose that we go through the warrant in the order in which it's listed for the sake of avoiding confusion. Anybody have an issue with that? All right. The first worded strokes are standard strokes in which we authorize the town finance director to receive funds and in anticipation of expenditures, if there's something more than $300,000 in total from one source, be spent as authorized by a vote of the town meeting. The second stroke is to authorize the finance director to accept private donations. The third stroke is to authorize the housing trust to receive monies, including state and federal grant monies, and goes on with the specifics as to how they may expend that money. And the fourth of these is to authorize the reserve fund to receive up to $100,000 from the accumulated revenue of the cell tower. Those 4 have not changed from years of exposure, and I would propose that I would entertain a motion to adopt.
I'd like to edit the housing trust one to reflect what was passed at the town meeting last year.
All right, may I propose a motion, or may I seek a motion for strokes 1, 2, and 4?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes, sir, go ahead with your,
At town meeting last year, the wording with prior approval from the town council was struck from this and passed. And so I think that we should continue with what we passed last year. It was an edit at town meeting.
furthermore, to authorize the housing trust to expend monies from the housing trust fund during '24 for the purposes of the trust as provided by section 292 of the code and section 710 of the home rule charter.
Yes.
This is the line before that, no?
No, that's it.
Can you read it again for me? What you're asking to edit?
We're striking from this sentence, we're striking the words with prior approval from the town council. So it should say furthermore to authorize the housing trust to expend monies from the housing trust fund during fiscal year 2024 for the purposes of the trust.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't get that the first time.
My hesitation in that is that when it was passed, it was a known amount. Furthermore, to authorize the housing trust to expend monies from the housing trust fund during 24. Okay, since it is the council's action that caused the trust monies to become available, I was not comfortable, but lost the motion at the town meeting. I'm concerned that we have some degree of control over what it is that the total sum is available. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, I just don't agree with it.
Can we put up to a certain amount? To expend money up to X amount of dollars?
The manner in which it's been done, I don't know whether we could do that because there is, I don't personally know the balance in the account right now. Someone else may.
Yeah, the balance is about $240,000. And we have some projects that we're working on that, you know, will likely, it's hard to predict exactly how much money we're going to need.
Right, right. And do you see the council's involvement as being an impediment to that process in the sense that the council might vote no
Well,
to housing trust?
I don't think that the council needs to have complete overview of every nickel and dime that the housing trust spends. You know, if we were to, you know, like this, like we did with the study last year, you know,
Right,
going out and hiring someone for a couple $1,000s that we were going to spend out of our housing trust fund. I don't think that the council necessarily needs to approve the expenditure of that. I think it's appropriate for the council to receive the results of the study like we did in December. But the other thing is the council has to approve the acquisition of property.
right.
If the housing trust wants to acquire a piece of property, it still has to come to the council in that capacity. So, you know, on some level, the council still has some control over that side of what goes on with the housing trust.
Right. What,
But if, you know, I think that the way things are going with the housing trust, we're gonna have some more, I think, administrative expenses. You know, if we need to go out and like
yeah,
buy some stamps, I don't think it's appropriate to have to go to the town council to buy postage and send out a mailer and.
so to go to the other end of it, perhaps there would be earnest money that you need urgently in order to close a deal or to save a place in a deal. So would a figure like $100,000 be a limit that you would be? So I'm basically concerned about the housing trust coming for $358,000 and then there's only 140 left or whatever, and we end up then having to figure out where are we going to get that remainder? How do we protect against that?
Well, I mean, no matter what, the first stop in acquiring a piece of property is the town council, according to the charter amendment that we passed back in November. So on some level, the council already has control over that side of it and purview over it. You know, and we've got a very active trust. We abide by open meeting laws. People show up to our meetings, participate. You know, I think there's a lot of oversight on that level with, you know, where we expend money. And I'd like to note that the housing trust chair is here if he has any comments. I don't want to speak completely on behalf of the housing trust.
Yeah, no, so the comments that I might make would be in the event that the housing trust acquires funding separate and apart from appropriation or through its president means of building permit fees, then I'll put the question out, if we received a $500,000 donation, would the council have any say over that at all?
No. The ordinance calls for the setting aside of money, and I don't believe, I'm not looking at it, but I don't believe it calls it the Housing Trust Fund. It calls it a reserve that's available to the Housing Trust to use with council permission. Is that?
So it does on the third item annually, it does say monies from the Housing Trust Fund. So the stroke in the warrant that is annually approved, in fact, does say
Okay.
expend from the Housing Trust.
You want to do a percentage of the housing trust fund? Like,
Well, I kind of agree with Bob, which I was saying originally, if Andrew's talking about stamps and other stuff, and I know he means more than that, that if we put housing trust to expend up to $100,000 from the housing trust fund, and that would give them something to put a deposit on if something came up real quick or anything. I don't feel comfortable, like Pat said, if something, $500,000 comes in, even though we may have control over to the housing trust fund by expending it through that, I'm kind of, Pat came to us the other night with a project that's going on down at Colebrook Road. And it seems like that project's kind of far along. And he said they needed $175,000. And I think it's great that they're doing that. But it seemed like all the works were already in progress. And you just wanted to say, okay, you can go ahead and do that, which we did. Okay.
So we had an accepted offer, but one of the contingencies was the approval of the town council. So in point of fact, it wouldn't have gone any further had this council voted not to.
is there any way this can obligate the town? Like, let's say they find a property for 300,000 and they only have, say, 275. And they sign a contract with the monies and put their down payment, does that automatically obligate the town for the other 25,000? We don't have a say in how to stop it? We can say, whoa, wait a minute.
We can't acquire property without the town council's approval, or we're going to financial town meeting.
Which is what happened the other night when Pat came to us to say, we're ready to go, but we need council approval to go forward with it.
I don't know, I say leave it as is then.
Well, I'll make a motion to amend it to what I had suggested.
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded to remove, basically between the commas, expend and monies. Term with prior approval from the town council. All in favor of the motion?
Aye. Oh, sorry.
Let me just, didn't we take that out last year though, Bob? Didn't we take that out?
As a result of yes,
Yeah,
that
it's fine.
motion was made at the meeting.
To take that out. So if the people of the town felt comfortable taking that out, which we represent,
Yeah.
do you think that we should leave it in there?
I'm willing to continue the voting on the motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going
So the vote,
to, okay.
all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. The motion carries to remove that term from stroke number 3.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and then let's then proceed through the remainder of the strokes, which in some cases are new, in some cases are updates of previous items. So the next one is to authorize the council to expend up to $10,000 on administrative costs to execute contracts and agreements that will clarify South Shore Beach boundaries and maintain parking lot dimensions in favor of the town while establishing access to beachfront property to the east for recreation and stewardship uses. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I have a discussion on this one. I support this. Reading it and going through it in the past at the council meetings, the Nature Conservancy is not named in this. And they're the other entity that we're making these real estate transactions with. So to be transparent, I don't know why they're not in this warrant, the Nature Conservancy. Secondly, $10,000, I've seen that's a lot of money. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like a bit to me. And if someone can explain beachfront property, I'm excited about beachfront property here. I don't know what that's about. Somebody could tell me what beachfront property we've got going on down there.
First of all, it says the town council to spend up to $10,000, not $10,000. And I've looked over this agreement and it seems like it's a good deal for the town. So I think what we're trying to do is just get this ratified so that we can get past it. Beachfront property, I assume, means South Shore Beach. Or might mean Goosewing Beach.
Establishing access to beachfront property to the east for recreation and steward use. I mean, you could put in there to the east of South Shore Beach, I guess.
This is the culmination of many, many years of turmoil. It is a mutually agreed between the Beach Commission and the Nature Conservancy's local representative that this represents the best possible solution for the town in order to preserve its rights to access to the east. It's also favorable to the Nature Conservancy in that they receive a capability to maintain their property, having no other access to their property except across the town's property. So that compromise has been reached with both entities fully in agreement, and each of them have participated with their boards in the formation of this. It's also been reviewed by the solicitor. It's also been reviewed by the town administrator, and it represents the solution that we've been waiting for many years.
I'd like to add the Nature Conservancy in the warrant somewhere.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next is to see if the town will ratify the decision of the council made on October 20th, 2022 to purchase solar energy financial credits via a net metering contract. If you recall, there was a discussion that says, take advantage of the next opportunity to do so. We don't believe it's required, but let's do it so that we get town meeting approval of the action that was taken. Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks. The next one then is to authorize the council to expend the remaining sum of, at the moment of this, $677,000 American Recovery Plan Act funds to accelerate accomplishment of the town's capital project plans, including but not limited to construction of an off-street parking area north of the basketball court and a public works building at the transfer station. I believe Councilor McHugh has an addition he would like to make to this.
Yes, thank you. I just have some questions about this. First, about the ARPA money. If someone here could justify and tell me why we're using the money to pave Maple Avenue and pave Beta and where it fits into the ARPA guidelines, I'd like to hear that. Just to a point, our ARPA money, our revenues is $1,038,402.32. Expense $360,563.68. The Beta Group, which from what I understand, before I got on the council, we hired, so I may not know all the things that Beta does for us, but we hired Beta to look at all our roads and see and give us a pavement schedule from what I understand. That was 13,000. Also another 1,800 for Beta, and then 35,000 for pavement improvements, and then $309,231.08 to Team Mitsui, if I'm saying it right. Myosi, and I have a copy of that invoice here that breaks down, and a lot of that was Maple Avenue. And I've read the opera guidelines. I've read the rules that came out January of '22. They have a final rule that came out. And I'm hard pressed to find anything that says paving of roads are to be used for what's happened to people and families in towns because of the pandemic. So I'm interested to to see how we're tying this into using this money.
I'll answer the question. First of all, that's infrastructure fund. Those funds can be used for infrastructure. So with that being said, we thought that it would be best to tap into that because we have a limit time to use those funds. We have to commit them by 2024. So with that being said, rather than tap into capital and use capital, which we can keep that in the reserve fund and use it for future paving or future work that may need to get done or any other town project. So we taken advantage of those funds. That's the main reason as to why. And since we are on the $10 million, we in checking that out, we are able to use it for that purpose.
Yeah, I've read that. And if you read all of this, I don't know if you read the rule that came out. I've read the whole thing. Infrastructure is there one time, it's one word, in all of these documents. It's supposed to invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So I think it's a reach that we're using the word infrastructure to pave our roads. I mean, that's just my opinion. And for everything that's going on here. So I find it a bit of a reach to do that. But I would like to add something I think opera money should be used for, and it's quite clear, and it's in a lot of it's in the rule, it's in their guidelines. Addressing educational disparities. The kids dealt with 2 years of that over there in all these schools in America, and they had problems with distance learning and stuff like that. So we have a community center that is struggling with their summer program, and it fits right into opera that we can send them some money over there. So I'd like to make an amendment to send $20,000 of the opera money over to the community center for their summer program. That's going to help parents drop their kids off so they can go to work. And I'll also give the kids something to do. So I think it's important. I think it's in the spirit of what this money should be used for. So I'm hoping it's an amendment to the motion. Is that what we've had a motion in a second or not? I don't think we have we?
No, we jumped into it.
I'll second it.
The question I had for the administrator was, how far are we along with the town hall? Are we gonna have overruns there? I don't want to commit this money to something if we're gonna have overruns at the town hall. I think that was the main thrust of the ARPA funds, get the town hall back to where it should be.
Correct. It's to assist if necessary. You're right. The original contract was $907,000. We've had some change of orders because of rotted in the building. Many of the repairs that we've had to do, we up to $166,000 in change of orders at this point. And I foresee a couple other things because the building on its side is probably going to have some issues anticipated because we did have, and I'm talking about the schoolhouse section. We've had some major issues there, and we still have to do the ramp side that's been used temporarily, and it's anticipated there'll be some damage there as well. So there'll be some additional costs there.
Well, I don't want to earmark the whole thing for other projects until the town hall is fully funded.
The town hall's primary source of funding is the $2 million bond that we took out in order to conduct that work. So I do not foresee ARPA being used significantly at all in funding that. I have no issue with adding another facet, and I think it's a good one. It's one that's different from what's there. And I'm fine with the fact that we are being diverse. We have no, as the administrator said, because of the size of our grant, we have no constraints like the city of Providence or Cranston has in terms of how much can be spent. When you're talking upwards of $1 billion, there are very significant constraints on how it's compartmentalized. But for us, our amount is categorized in a subset that allows its expenditure for a variety of resources. And I would take issue with the fact that what we've spent it on to date is not appropriate. I would certainly guarantee to you that it passed muster with the League of Cities and Towns coordinator, who was a person who reviewed for us how we intended to expend it. But let's get back to what you're suggesting that we do. Would it be appropriate then to modify this to say including but not limited to construction of an off-street parking area north of the basketball court, a public works building at the transfer station, and then put your language, or put that language first if you think it's important to put it first? I have no issue certainly with that either.
I can put it last and to expend $20,000 to the community, Little Compton Community Center for their summer school program in 2022.
2023.
2023, I'm stuck in 2022. Just quickly, a parking lot and a box to put in the dump, the cities and towns, League of Cities and Towns person that you say, review this, he said that's okay to use opera money for?
What I'm saying is, guidance was put out that said, if you're below this threshold, you are not obligated to spend it in certain ways, and tell us what those ways are. Your point, you're making the point that we ought to be doing something that is community focused, and I acknowledge that. I would suggest to you that the two things before that are community focused, but not in the way that you're suggesting it. So I think you've made a good suggestion, but none of these three items is off limits for the use of ARPA funds.
So was that in the final rule that you're getting that information from, where they said you could use it for other things?
No, it's the method by which it is categorized, and I'm not fluent in the language of how they describe it. But what they say is you can assign funds to various categories depending upon what level of funding you get. If you get an amount less than 10 million, we recommend that you assign it, I'll call it, to general use. That's not its name, but it's a name like that, which allows it to be used for a variety of community support initiatives. So we're not constrained by something that says you can only use half of it for a road. You can't use 3/4 of it for a road. There's not a constraint like that invoked on us because of the size of our grant.
Did you get my addition?
That language was, could you say it back to us?
And 20,000 to the Little Compton Community Center for their summer 2023 program.
May,
Yeah.
could I ask that not be constrained to summer camp, rather to childcare programs?
I'm used to having my motions amended, so I won't take that, I won't take offense to that. I'm happy to amend my motion to
Childcare programs.
childcare programs at the community center.
20,000 to community center childcare programs.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are you
Thanks
still
for the
leaving the
clarification.
2023 in there, or is it?
There's no need to constrain the year.
Okay, well,
Except,
Patrick's original was, that's why I'm asking.
I don't see,
You don't have to put the year. You can strike it.
so the motion then is as written with the addition and expend $20,000 to fund Little Compton Community Center childcare programs. That then is the motion before us. It's been made and seconded. No, I'll call for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right. The next item I thought was necessary to specify how we're going to use infrastructure improvement and Jobs Act funds, since they come by grant, not by whatever the proper term, or whatever the term is for giving it to the town. We need to apply for it. We have to put up a portion to get a larger grant. But I thought it was important to identify broadband access and town roads as infrastructure items in this article. Frankly, if you decide that you don't want to put that article in for any reason, I don't think it limits us, but it answers a question in advance for what we're intending to do.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think you're referencing BEAD because it is in here. You can't see without a magnifying glass, but I've got all the grants right here for that. The Broadband Equity Access and Development Program, is that what you're?
Right.
Right. And we've talked many times with the finance, with Tony. It's a big deal. There's $42.4 billion. Every state's going to get money. And we're going to have to figure out, how we're going to use this money so we don't get left behind like we did back in the 90s. So we can get people to use their phones, it doesn't drop, and we can get our internet and get people to want to live here and work from here. It's extremely important. It's called the BEAD program. This just happens to fall into this Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. There's more to come on that.
With no pun intended, I left it broad because I believe that among the things we have to do is get fiber to the town. It doesn't come here now. So I propose that it be as broad as possible, that we have broadband access through the town to improve it.
It's a big deal and it's coming soon and we can't miss the boat on it. We're gonna have to do our part to let the FCC know and to let the state and the government know where every single house and what reception they get. So it's gonna have to take a lot of work from this council, to get people to buy in, to say, we gotta give them the information so we can get the money. So you'll be hearing a little more about it very shortly.
Motion to approve.
But Bob, is there any,
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yep.
is there
Yes.
any idea what kind of funding we get? Because this is a financial document, so I don't know if you want to put up to, but I guess if we don't have any clue about how much we're going to get.
We don't. I characterize it like some of the things that we have said, stroke two, to authorize the town finance director to accept private donations set up by the council. And you're right, it doesn't have a value to it, but that's because we don't know until we apply what we're going to apply for.
I'm just thinking that somebody might stand up and say, well, how much is that going to be before I vote on it? But
Okay.
if we don't know, then we'll just explain we don't know.
Okay. Any other
Motion
discussion?
and second on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. With your permission, I will go page by page on these, unless there's something that you want to call halt for discussion. Does that seem reasonable, so that we can move our way through this? The remainder are not new strokes. They are recognizable. If you will,
On the bottom of this one, how much did we give stay-at-home last year, Bob?
it's $10,900. I'll explain that one.
Right, because I see we're only giving them 5,000. Their request was for 10,900.
Let me just proceed one by one. I think that's probably better. To see if the town will appropriate $10,000 for the repair and maintenance of the Brownell House.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
The solicitor has recused. $4,800 as a donation to the Wellness Center. I'll point out that the Wellness Center requested $10,000 and did so specifying the food bank was the destination for $5,200 of those dollars. The food bank separately has asked for $5,200. So I believe that this is the amount that should go to the Friends of the Wellness Center. And as you'll see, about 4 or 5 items down, $5,200 to the,
Motion to approve.
I'll second it, but I want to ask if anyone confirmed with the wellness center that that was their intent.
that's what their application said. I believe that was the amount specified, but I don't know that.
I got it in front of me. It was $10,000 that they requested now.
And what's the language in the request?
It says, tenants of the Little Compton Food Bank have revitalized, improved space they occupy, including new efficient refrigeration, shelving. Together, we are an important resource for the town and community. It doesn't say anything about how much the wellness center is going to give to the food bank. I mean, if you want to break it down like that. So the food bank
But
gets a share of it.
in essence, that is what I'm suggesting. The food bank almost simultaneously asked for funds to assist in providing food to citizens. So that's why I took the action I did. But I'm fine with moving this deliberation into the budget process if you want, and give the or authorize the wellness center to receive, if that's what you think. I personally think that the bulk of what the support that we got from the wellness center was through the food bank, which used to be integral with the wellness center. Now it is no longer that. So that's why I
Okay.
did it the way I did it.
I don't know if anybody seconded it or not.
I second it.
Andrew?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks. Next item is $500 to East Bay Community Action Program, which was their request.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? $750 to the Prevention Coalition, which was their request.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$750 to the Eastern Rhode Island Conservation District, which
So
was their
moved.
request.
Second.
Discussion.
Aye.
Aye. $5,000 for stay-at-home. Stay-at-home's request was for $10,900, which was their request last year. The difference this year is that they are no longer providing dispatch and bus driver services, which we will have to contract for separately. So it is my sense that that's the difference based upon what we know to date. So you'll see later on, we're proposing to move that cost into another
Motion to approve.
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
The next is $6,200 as a donation to the community center in support of senior meal program, which provides food and little
Motion to
compensation.
approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. $5,200 to the Little Compton Food Bank, aforementioned.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Now we move into the strokes, which are for the town, departments of the town. The first of these is the police department, which including dispatchers is $1,450,126.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion.
I've got a question,
Yeah.
since the chief is here. Is your intent with this budget to increase the size of the police department next year?
It is the bottom under personnel. When requesting to send an additional recruit to the police academy that starts in January of 2024. That will bring our total complement to 12 members, including myself. Since I've been hired, it was always my intent to Generally, we have more hats to wear than heads to put them on. That number 12 puts us in a good position, in a feasible model where we have an administrative section, our detective section. We have enough patrol sergeants and supervisors to control the 6 actual officers. And instead of, taking an officer off the road and giving them other administrative responsibilities, we'll have a wing of the department that will be able to do that. And then we'll, be able to get back to the bread and butter of actually patrolling around town and, what I call waving the flag, seeing the police cars out there and letting people know that we're there. So 12 is the number that, after my first year here, it looked like we will be very efficient and be able to manage all of our responsibilities, which seem to be increasing every legislative session, whether it be the body camera program that's now legislation, legislation from the governor in regards to assault weapon bans. That deals with a lot of weapons being turned in. If this passes, registration of those weapons, et cetera. So we're taking on more administrative responsibilities, which is taking us away from our primary function of patrol. That number of 12 puts us in a good position.
And there's still going to be somebody there that's doing what Sue Cressman's doing right now.
Yes, we're trying to transition someone into her position now.
Okay.
Yes,
Because I think that's important for the community also.
absolutely.
So do we have any projections as to what this is going to cost over the next 10 years? With full salary and pension and,
I don't have it out to 10 years. I could put something together, certainly. You're looking at the recruit salary changes to probationary junior patrolman, to junior patrolman, to senior patrolman, to corporal, and up the line. We're also, in the next 3 years, losing our top 3 people. Sue Cressman's pending retirement in July. If we replace her in the fall or in January of 2024, we're actually saving money because she's at a higher pay level than the entry-level police officer would be coming into that position. So, we're saving a little bit of money initially, but overall, to increase the efficiency of the department, we're going to have to spend a little more money.
yeah. I mean, I think this is probably a bigger conversation that I want to have. Gary points to the work that, Officer Cressman does, which is, I think, imperative to our community. But I don't necessarily think that work should be done in the police department. So I think that,
I don't
Personally, I
necessarily
think-
that our,
well, let me, personally, I think that the money that we're using towards that sort of work shouldn't be under the realm of the police department. It should be in a different department. So if we're trying to alleviate some of the workload put on the police department, maybe we should invest that money in a different area so the police can get back to what you're saying, the work that you're supposed to be doing.
I'm not asking to take that responsibility away from us. People are going to call us anyway. We get 90% of our phone calls are not crime or actual police incident related. It's the elderly lunch program. It's I don't have any heat. The power's out. Things of this nature. I think what we need is someone in-house or someone outside of house, whether it be a contract employee, that is more of a social services liaison,
Completely.
which is exactly what Sue Cressman is doing now. We certainly don't mind. She does a fantastic job. But sometimes she's also our accreditation manager. We're in the process of becoming accredited. So again, not enough heads for the hats that we're wearing. But to house that person, a social director, a social services director within the police department, that's where the calls are going to go anyway. So that is not a problem for me or the rest of us. So, putting a contract employee in there or continuing Sue Cressman's service as a town employee some way, shape, or form is something I think we should think about. But yet again, we still need to do the patrol function of the department. We're still going to, if you take the social services aspect out of the police department, you're still going to get the phone calls. We're still going to end up with these type of calls.
But that's only because we've trained people to make that, make the call to the police station. It's going to take time if we were to go a different route, it'll take time to train our community to seek other avenues, which doesn't mean that we shouldn't try and do that.
Seems like most of your workload though, outside of patrol is administrative.
It is. The amount of paperwork and checks and balances between the state government, the federal government, the FBI, criminal statistics, things of that nature. Just looking at firearms, background checks to purchase firearms, just regular prosecution, when we have to go to the traffic tribunal for prosecution, prosecuting criminal arrests. You know, that just takes a body out of the building and it takes time. And that's why it's taking time away from our patrol function. So adding that additional 12th person, I feel, spreads us out to a manageable and efficient level of police work.
Any other discussion? You ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
See if the town will appropriate $62,880 or much necessary for the public safety complex.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? See if the town will appropriate $1,071,000 for the fire department.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. To authorize the ambulance reimbursement fund to receive and expend monies up to $140,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah. Chief, you don't have any idea that we'd be going over $140,000 with the ambulance reimbursement fund, do you?
Probably collect a little more than 140 this year.
Or should it be more than that? Because receive and expend monies up to $140,000. If they're going to receive monies that are $160,000, am I reading this wrong or?
140 is, in my opinion, a conservative figure for what there is. If it were to be, if we were to collect 160 any more going into next year, and we'd say, all right, let's do it then. I personally think we're about right, but
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So you think 140 and then anything over that will go into next year's budget?
what it does is it just accumulates in the ambulance reimbursement fund because the agreement made between the volunteers and the town when they yielded on the charging of fees for people that weren't from Little Compton was that that fund would be used in a constrained fashion, and that's the types of things that we're buying with it, are those things that are allowed. So yes, in the sense of, it's a rolling fund.
Okay.
The finance director maintains, and it goes up and down as we move through the year.
I just didn't want our hands tied if there was more
If there was
money.
more money?
Right.
It is a little bit more, but thus far, we haven't seen the fact that we ought to go to 160 or 180. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. $1,000 to the pension of Alfred Texera.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Has he collected it this year?
I don't know.
I believe he has been paid out, yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. $18,915 to pay the salary for disabled firefighter Leonard Correo. As you may know, he is not in our pension plan, and that's why he comes up here.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$15,900 for senior citizen services.
Motion to approve.
Second. What was, what did we give for that last year, Bob?
If you look at your thing, it's wrong one. 5,015.9, and that's what mentioned the 10,900. We were going to raise it to $10,000 in order to support our additional senior services offerings. And then the 5,900 on top of that was the portion that we removed from the request from stay at home, because we're also going to be dispatching and paying for that that function. We think that function's going to be at the community center or do it
No, it would be,
It's
at
not-
it would be with the town hall.
be with the town hall?
Yes.
So that's where that,
With the community center.
So that's why that extra is.
Yes, that's the reason for the extra.
Are we hiring someone?
We may have to go in that direction to hire a, what I would call a senior activities coordinator.
Yeah.
You know, someone who would coordinate the transportation. Right now, we have a volunteer, but I think over time, we may want to go in that direction.
You may be able to imagine who that might be. There's, yeah. So we've got the need for being able to be responsive so that we can go back to the process of saying to the seniors, every Tuesday, there's a run to market basket or whatever, and they become then accustomed to that, and then we start to build that up, and then I can just see that as being something that's very useful and will also solve a number of our problems of people not being able to get food.
Bob, on the sheet you gave us, the summary of fiscal year, it says senior citizen services appropriation 23, 5,000, appropriation 24, 10,000. Typo.
15,900.
So it should be the 15. Okay.
Sorry.
15.9.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. $7,145 for the salary of the social services director.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$854,188 for the annual principal and interest payments on the bond to fund the school renovation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$131,188 for the finance office.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$128,037 for the office of the tax assessor.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 45,000 for a fund that accumulates over the 2 years. We don't do a reval so as to have enough money when we do it.
Motion
That
to
amount is
approve.
$45,000.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
A sum not to exceed $10,000 to pay the maintenance contract obligations on the wastewater treatment facility.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
250,000 for a capital expenditure fund.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
239,968 for the annual principal and interest payments on the bond that is currently funding the overhaul of the town hall and other capital.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$85,947, the expenses of the town administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$20,428 for the salaries and expenses of the town council.
Way overpaid.
Oh,
So moved.
can we vote on that?
Of course,
On our own salary,
we
huh?
do each year. It's, yeah. Not something a charter review
Second.
commission gave to the budget committee yet. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. $85,430 for the office of the building official.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$30,000 for the inspectors associated with the building
So
official.
moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
$30,000 for the various boards and commissions. They're listed there in your review. And the Housing Trust request for 20,000 has been accommodated in the set-aside funds. It's not denied, it's just not in this boards and commissions line. I think in the meeting that we had Most recently, the Housing Trust made the pitch for 5,000, 20,000, oh no, 20,000, 50,000, and the monies necessary to close the deal on the
175.
ones, on the property on Colebrook. All three of those would come from the set-aside funds.
Motion to approve what's in front of us here.
Second.
Yes, sir.
So only to say what you're suggesting would be the requested 20,000 and the requested 50,000 would come from the housing trust fund and not from additional.
Not from appropriations, right.
So it was not the intention when requested that this would be the funding source. In other words, the purchase price was intended to be from that already set aside affordable housing money. The $20,000 request was for additional administrative assistance during the upcoming fiscal year.
I do recall, yes.
The $50,000 request was for project development and matching grants.
And it was at the, of the Housing Trust that also come from,
Stroke.
not come from the set-aside funds?
That's correct. So the set-aside fund you're talking about is the housing trust fund, if you will. And so, no, it was the intention when requested that the 20 would be an annual appropriation,
And the 50 would also?
and the 50 would be specific to the project. Each of which would be a separate stroke on the warrant.
Okay.
I think my motion referenced that in our last meeting.
I don't mind putting the 20,000 into this Little Compton Housing Trust. Instead of 5, give them the 20 there, the 50. That'll have to be a separate stroke that the town can vote on.
And that was our intent.
You want me to, we have a motion and a second already, don't we?
Yeah, there's discussion.
Yeah.
An amendment, if you want to do it?
Well, who made the motion?
I moved it.
All right. So the
You
the
want,
initiator of the motion would then
It'd be 45,000,
add 20,000.
15,000 there.
15,000 to
It'd
make
be,
it 20.
total would be 45,000.
I think it's a worthy cause. I think budgets should reflect our priorities, and I think that this is a priority in our community.
Well, then we'd have to put another stroke in, asking for the $50,000 for the housing trust.
That's 70 grand right there.
I asked the breakdown of what planning board, can you give me the numbers?
It says Charter Review Commission, $1,000.
Okay.
As it's stated here, LC Housing Trust, $5,000.
Okay.
Planning Board, $3,500. Zoning Board of Review, $5,000. Part-time clerk, planning and zoning, $8,500. Conservation Commission, $7,000.
Thank you.
But it was my recommendation to put the Little Compton Housing Trust up to 20,000 versus 5,000.
I will say you can use your opera money for your housing trust, $50,000. It's well written into the rules and into their guidelines, all over it. If you want to amend that one, to add that to the end, it's an option.
Are you comfortable with us revisiting the last stroke on page 1 to include the 50,000 to the housing trust as an ARPA distribution in the same fashion we added the community center? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, it certainly won't raise the taxes like that, so.
And that, it's It's a great, just like Andrew said, it's reflects what's important.
So let's deal with, first of all, the stroke under consideration.
All right, so I'll amend my motion to make the housing.
Therefore, the bottom line of the stroke, 45,000.
45,000.
Second.
The motion's made and seconded to appropriate the sum of 45,000 distributed as indicated to various advisory boards for the ensuing year. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Sorry.
No, I said aye. You want to go back to the first page again?
Yeah.
And revisit that? So I'll,
Can I ask a question that I should know the answer of? Opera funds need to be approved at a town financial meeting? The
No.
council can't approve them themselves on a vote?
No, I'm just suggesting that since we went to the trouble of doing this, and we went to the trouble of adding a specific from the community center, it almost begs the question of, well, how are you going to pay for this other one? And frankly, we don't have a $50,000 float in the budget at this point that I'm aware of. So I'd be inclined to say that we'd identify the source right now. And to the points that have been made by other counselors, it is certainly an appropriate use of ARPA funds.
So we don't need to go to the town financial meeting to appropriate the opera funds to the community center or the housing trust, right? Am I correct in saying that?
Except as I initiated it with this stroke.
Right.
Yes, that's right.
So
We could abolish the whole stroke, but it seemed to me that people had a number of questions regarding how we intended to use it, and those have only been amplified at this table. So I think we should, personally, I think we should leave the stroke that designates the fact that we have this amount of ARPA funds remaining, and these are the kinds of things, including but not limited to the things we've listed. So
I understand. Does the housing trust need the money before the town financial meeting? And does the community center need that money before? Probably not. We're in May, right? So,
Well, I think they said they had 240,000 in their trust fund, so they can take the 50,000 out of that.
sure.
If they need it any quicker, and then we'll reimburse it if this stroke passes.
I'll move that we
Add,
readdress page 1, the last item, and add another and to it. And 50,000 to the housing trust for, is there a name of the project or
184 Colebrook Road.
184 Colebrook Road?
but it was a specific effort. It's
For matching funding for grants and for project-specific costs.
and 50,000 toward project-specific costs for the acquisition of property.
For development.
Just a point of order
The word I
here.
was looking.
Just a point of order, boss. Do we need to, I know it sounds silly, but do we need to have a motion to open this back up, to go back into it again, since we already voted on it? Or since we're still in the same meeting, can we just go back and modify it?
No, any of us that voted can vote to,
Amend.
Modify it as you
Modify it.
just suggested it, so you don't really need to reopen it. It's still in play, I should say.
Okay, all
I'll
right,
second Paul's motion.
okay.
50,000 to, and let's get the wording for the clerk. To fund for, do we want to constrain it to matching funds, or do we want to talk the word development?
Development costs associated with
Development, for development costs associated with,
184 Colebrook Road.
184 Colebrook.
for development costs associated. $184 Colebrook. Okay,
So motion's been made. I think you
that's the
seconded it,
motion.
Andrew.
Made and seconded. Is there further discussion? All in favor of the amended stroke being approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. Just,
Health insurance stroke.
how do we have this recorded? I don't remember. Active employee health care, $722,887, and retired employees, $172,819.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
A sum of $248,808 for the town's matching portion of FICA.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
Take your pick.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
$158,112 for the town's insurance coverage.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$128,680 for legal services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. The solicitor recuses. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
$125,000 as an incidental and emergency fund to be spent at the discretion of the council.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
See if the town will appropriate $50,400 for the town hall expenses.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Authorize a harbor management fund to receive and expend monies for harbor-related purposes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$245,786 to operate the transfer station.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$271,415 for public works.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$255,700 for the general maintenance and upkeep of town roads from the resurfacing and salt, sand, and clearing of snow.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
$35,310 for the tree warden.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$177,500 for the purchase of maintenance contracts and supplies for computer systems for use in the town buildings.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
$34,000 to audit the books of the finance department.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
$8,820 for streetlights.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$6,140 for the probate judge.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$7,000 for the expenses associated with the Odd Fellows Hall 32 Commons.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
$55,500 for the employee compensation and equipment and supplies to be expended for the town gymnasium recreation program.
I'll move that.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Remaining worded stroke, which get amended at the meeting. First is to order a tax to be levied.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Aye.
And then to authorize the finance director to borrow from time to time a certain amount of money.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any other matters before us with respect to adoption of the budget? Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Take care.
All right.
Are we going on executive session, Bob?
No, we don't have the basis for one.
Okay.
President,
I believe the parts,
may I just do a distribution of the capital budget for FY '24? That they may review it at their leisure
please,
and bring it up at the next council meeting
please.
with any questions?
Thank you.
Has the
Committee still gotta go over what we just approved.
generally in life. Solar, 850.
George didn't look too happy.
Things there.
I mean, for the, like on top of town.
I know. Well, the first thing I looked at was how much it was gonna go up was 4.7. I said, nah, that's not gonna work. What is the limit on, oh,
It
yeah.
might be in the- no, it might be in the capital.
Work, right?
Tony, is the solar in here?
Jesus, I can't read that.
No, because, did I put it in there? Wait a minute. That's a good question. I don't think I did.
Did what?
Okay. Although if we did, I can still add it, obviously, because this is just for your, review. If we did, it's gonna be, you're looking at approximately about 400,000, close to 500,000, because we would split that with all the grants that would be coming our way. So right now, the number, if we settle with Newport, Newport Renewables, they 800 and change. But Jim and I looked at it, the town will kick in about 400 and change, roughly about 450.
Tony, is the audit,
That's a good point. I was not thinking about doing that through this, but yeah, let's think about that a little bit for the next meeting. I'm not so sure that we want to include it as a capital here, okay? Because it's a large amount of money, so we may want to take a different approach to that.
Okay.
has the audit come back yet?
The audit, actually, they just wrapped up today. There were a few things that they needed to touch up, and that we did that actually today. Bob and I were doing a review, send it back to the auditor committee, for them to finish it off, but it was some comments that we had to make. It was just specific sections, it was not the entire document. There were like 3 areas that we needed to comment on.
I would expect we would get it tomorrow since our extension expires tomorrow. And I believe that their intention is to submit the audit. And we will get the draft of that.
I'm gonna, real quickly, I'm gonna request that any document we get, we can clearly read it and the text is bigger. I just have, I got glasses, I got contacts.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I hear you.
I mean,
We can do a much,
I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking in general
okay.
from my experience here in the 18 months I've been here. And even the bills, I can barely read those things. I mean, they're so tiny. Anyway, that's my complaint. And I never complain.
I have no
so.
problem seeing it.
Good, you're young. What can I tell you? You're 30 years old, but I'll tell you.
I think you better upgrade your prescription on your glasses.
I can state of the art in my eyes, man. State of the art. It's just,
No, actually, that is much better than what I received initially, because I was trying to print it, and then I asked somebody,
2 pages is okay. Yeah, 2 pages is okay. Or back, whatever. It's my request. Can you put that in the minutes, please? Seriously. 50 years from now, they can laugh at that.
Do you wish to go through the process of the budget creation, or do you want to save that for another time? I will pass these items down that you can look at, and you can decide whether that's something you want to know about now. Basically, what this shows you is how we go about deciding how much we're going to take from
Thank you.
taxes.
There's only one sheet here, Bob.
That's it, single sheet. It's organized in the way it is because, quote, we've always done it this way. And if you look at the basic rules, the stuff at the top, it go in numerical order. There's in-house estimates that we make, which are from the town. Number 2, there are state estimates that are made, and I emphasize the term estimates. Not only does the state estimate it, they change it later in the budget season after you've already been to your financial town meeting. So it's an interesting movement that occurs. You have a couple of budget decisions, how much you're going to budget for reimbursement and drug forfeiture. You see in '23, we had 55,000 for drug forfeiture, we have 0 this year. But anyway, The assessor then does the work associated with that office, 4. He evaluates the magnitude of the tax base. We then choose a tax rate. We do it iteratively until we get one that gets us where we want to be. That then produces the results below, the taxes. That then produces $13,530,000, which goes all the way back to the top. And now that's the major source of revenue, obviously, that gets plugged in up there. As you move down that chart, you find out that the last thing we do is establish a fund, a general fund appropriation. We draw from the general fund the missing portion. In the case last year, it was $400,767. That then makes the balance work at the top, so that $16,226,000 in expenses is balanced precisely by $16,226,000 in revenues. Ask me to repeat that, I'll do it easily, but I don't need to do it tonight. I'll be happy to talk with you about it if you have as to how we do it. But that's the process once the budget is. Okay.
I don't think that tax levy increase is right at the bottom last year.
What?
Tax levy increase.
Yeah,
It's 2.46.
Yeah. What's that, 35%?
oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that was,
Oh,
and
oof.
should be 3.5.
I think someone made
Yeah,
a
that
mistake.
was, I thought that had been clear, okay.
Okay. All right. If you're ready then to move on to the second item on the agenda, that is the strategy for moving forward with the solicitor selection. I believe you have, or I have another copy if you don't have, the proposed language for the terms of engagement. And from Counselor Moore's and my discussions, and Counselor McHugh's and my discussions, each of which were handled separately, we are at the point of saying, all right, how are we going to go about choosing the next solicitor? And when we do this process, how will we approach the party or parties that we
Thank you.
choose? To refresh your memory, there was some discussion that occurred between individuals, and we should do that now as a group, as to how we might proceed with the process.
So this one that you made up is gone by the wayside now, or?
No, we didn't act on this, to my knowledge. We needed to talk about money and how we would go from there.
So I commend you guys on doing this, coming out with a document. I know you left out how much an hour for litigation, correct?
Right, that was, Andrew and I divided the duties up, and he did a little bit of a spreadsheet study on what the hourly rate that we pay is currently. Is that, I'm reflecting. And then we thought he and I, in our conversation, thought that we should decide as a group what it is we want to go forward with to which candidates.
Do we want to include that litigation number on this document?
I think we could make that decision. Do we want to put it on this document, or do we want to have it in another?
So I think that's the question, is the litigation number is the one question. And two, since we have this document, and we'll bypass the litigation number, whether it's on here or not.
Yeah.
What do we want to do with this document? Do we want to say, well, great job? Do we want to vote and hire someone? Do we want to give it to two people and negotiate with the two companies, or 3 people or 4 people? Or what do we want to do with this document?
Right. exactly.
So I think those are the two things. One, the number, maybe that's secondary, right? Or maybe it's not secondary, I don't know. Or what do we want to do with this document now? Who do we want to give it to?
I would propose that we choose no more than 3 firms.
I think we already did,
We already did that, though.
we already did 3.
Did we vote to do that?
We did not.
I don't believe we voted. I agree with you. I believe we discussed that possibility, and since we were in that executive session, we did not take a vote.
No, we came out of without it. We came out of that executive session, just to refresh our memories, is to come back with this document to the council.
And, right,
Even though we discussed many things in that meeting,
that's right.
this is what was voted on when we came out. No votes were taken in executive. So now we have this document. What do we want to do with it?
My recollection from that meeting is that we identified 3 firms as candidates that we believed we should approach. One was DeSisto Law Associates. One was the incumbent, Richard Humphrey. And one was the firm Gidley, Sarley, and Maruzak, for whom I believe we heard from Purvaj, and we heard from, there was another lawyer there, and I don't believe he was as much a part of the presentation. But I think those were the 3 that seemed we had some consensus about.
Andrew, I watched one of the town council meetings, and I don't know whether you've got it there on the spreadsheet, that you were gonna try to find out how many hours the solicitor put in actually for his stipend, and then how many hours he put in for the zoning and other stuff, so that, I mean, if we get that, and they all gave us an idea of how much the fees were gonna be. So,
Yeah, I did go through, and I'm sorry I don't have an extra copy of it. It's a little, there's a lot of information on here, so it's kind of hard to explain outright, but, so,
well, the basis for that was to see whether we should be going with hourly rate, if it's gonna be cheaper for us to go hourly rate.
Yeah.
Or we should go with a stipend.
so for just our total legal services, overall, I found that, it varied per year. So in 2021, to our solicitor, not for the contingency or consulting, we were paying an average in 2021 of about $151 an hour.
Okay.
2022 is about $175 an hour. And in the current budget so far, we're averaging about $204 an hour of work done across the regular legal services for the council, prosecution services, and then zoning
Okay,
services.
so that did include zoning.
Yes, yeah. But it's all under, the way that we have it now, it's all under one,
Right.
it's all in one vessel at this moment. We don't separate it out. But I did go through and separate it out to see how much time was spent in each basket.
Yeah, unless there were litigation expenses. Is that accurate, that those aren't folded into that?
They are not, no.
Okay. Okay.
What, for outside services, Bob, is what you said. What was your comment just now?
Oh, I asked
For litigation.
if there were litigation services, exactly.
That was purely just the
Just-
town council.
Doing the work of the town without or
What-
being defended or prosecuted.
So I have all the applications here.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is relevant, but if you're asking for what the current solicitor's litigation number was, I do have June 30th, 2022. Billing rates for the upcoming year will be $225 per hour for attorneys in the office.
right.
Staff will be $185. So I don't know if that is in your figures.
Right,
That, I would assume that's the litigation number for the current solicitor is 2.25.
right. That's correct. I think that is his proposal, which we would, and our other attorneys have provided non-litigation matters and litigation matters figures in their letter of interest. And I believe that's, I'm looking at the third attorney. I believe that the first attorney also provided that, but I'm not finding it right away.
Hey,
I don't know if that's helpful. No, you can toss it back if it's not.
yeah, I've got, I just didn't bring that tonight.
Yeah, he was asked about a fee schedule. And the answer was, one town was 100, the service to one town was $135 an hour. I'm sorry.
They had,
I
well,
withhold my comment. I'm not reading my notes correctly.
they had what the charges were gonna be in all their,
Upcoming
on their
towns,
proposals.
yeah.
Well,
So,
I think with this sheet here, we don't put anything down on it.
Agree.
We just use this as a basis to hire somebody,
yep,
and we can go from there, because I really don't want to stop putting any kind of hourly rates down. I mean, what Andrew gave me was a good thing. What was that, 2021, 2022, and 2023?
23, yeah.
So obviously, the current solicitor is increasing $25 an hour per year. And then I think he was going to go back up again. I think he did an increase this year, didn't he?
2.25, he's proposed.
yeah.
Yeah.
So would it be your intention that two of us or all of us interview these three firms a second time?
I definitely think all of us.
All of us?
Yeah.
And is the three, are you comfortable with the three?
Yeah.
Yeah, those three. I think we all kind of vote, well, we didn't vote, but we all agreed.
But I think we agreed those were the three we were going to look at.
And just, I'm just throwing this out there.
Yep.
What is our goal in having them come back and talk to us again? What do we want to find out in having them come back again?
I'll say that my concern would be for two of them, how are you going to come to a town you've not served before? What have you, tell us about how you're going to prepare for this. And to one of them, say, what are you going to do to give us more flexibility? Of the firms we've named here, two of the firms have the ability in-house to say, you're not here this week, okay, you go and do that. Our incumbent does not have that flexibility. So I think to me, that's an important question to know, because we're going to be paying someone else, and we won't have as great a control over the fees that we charge that we receive from another person. So that's the kind of question that I think is different. And I'd like to know, because I think I think both of those other firms have served more than two towns, and therefore are probably, have some process by which they integrate into a new town, and we'd like to hear how you're going to do that. Because that's one of the great gaps that's possible in this, is that someone comes into the role and is not prepared for small town, the scale of our operation.
Okay.
And
we have them-
that's going to be an executive session, I assume.
Yeah, I'll tell you what influenced my decision before is there were two things, and I cited both of those, and we voted that we understood that those were the reasons. One was personnel performance. I was concerned that the performance of our solicitor now,
I wouldn't go too far in an open session about.
oh, no, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to tell you why I protected it. Exactly. The performance of our solicitor might be a conversation piece. And if it were, and he weren't there, we'd be in violation of the Open Meetings Act because we didn't warn him. The second thing I felt was litigation. Suppose one of the litigations in which we were involved came up in the discussion and some opinion was rendered or whatever, which was adverse to our interest. So for those two reasons, I thought we had protection in the Open Meetings Act exceptions to say we can close this meeting to outside participation. I don't know if we have that for hiring a solicitor. I think I'd have to go and ask some people who've hired solicitors recently, the actual act of interviewing them for the job.
Well, interviewing them for the job, still, I think there's gonna be personal performance brought up, especially
Okay,
maybe by our solicitor or the
if
solicitor.
we could persuade ourselves of that, I could.
Right.
Well, I think if you do go in executive, you have to let the person know, give them the choice if they want to have it open.
That's correct.
Executive.
Right.
I didn't anticipate that anyone would do that because that we were not talking about their performance. And so I did not warn them. I only warned our incumbent last time. But you're right, we would need to decide whether there was a warning necessary to people, depending on what we cited.
And I don't think that they'll have a problem with going into executive session. I mean, you can,
Oh, if I'm looking for a job, you tell me how yeah, sure, I'll agree. I mean, in general, I think that's not an adverse thing. That's yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna, well, I don't want to say too much in open session here about,
The process?
yeah,
And I'll make a motion to invite the Sisto Law, our current solicitor, Richard Humphrey and Associates, and then representatives from Gidley, Sarli Marusik for a second round of interviews.
Right. That's the motion. Is there a
do you
second?
want to put executive session, or is it just going to be listed as executive session?
I will follow your guidance on I will talk to other towns and find out how they do this and how they protect it if that's your desire. Certainly can do that.
Then I'll amend it to invite those three law firms for a second round of interviews under executive session if deemed necessary by the council president.
Second.
That's the motions made and second. Is there further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is everybody happy with this sheet that we got in front of us? Because it says approved by the vote of the town council. This is the basis that we're going to be going by, so.
Question, do we need to approve this?
Yeah, it's not before us. We could do it at our
Okay.
next meeting, I think.
Make a note of that one, I guess.
What about the time limit expiration of our current solicitor? Isn't it over tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we did, didn't we?
Seen it?
I don't remember. What a surprise.
I didn't hear the question.
I
The
think,
question was, to what extent it was our last, the clerk will be able to tell us, I'm sure. To what extent was our last action to extend the term of the solicitor?
Yeah, I thought of that, and
it was till the 28th.
It was?
I don't know the date.
and I think that it was tomorrow. But I think the wording in the charter, I don't think we need to extend it. It's until until the person is hired or his replacement is found.
I'm very glad you said that, sir. I agree with you completely. And that's precisely what I think.
Well, I just don't want to make sure that we took a vote that threw a monkey wrench on those gears.
No, it's, again, I believe, as Councilor McHugh has just said, that we have had since the beginning the authority to continue to employ a solicitor until his successor is named. So I don't think
Okay.
there's, now, some, till his successors.
The only thing that I see that might be a hangup, because we've been paying a stipend or an annual salary monthly, split into 12
Pieces.
pieces.
Yeah.
So the first two are salary and annual amount, the second one is a monthly stipend.
Oh,
So we might want to put or per hour, because I think what we're trying to decide right now is if we're going to keep doing that, because it seems like some months there's nothing that's really going on, and he's still getting paid for not much going on.
I agree.
So if we go with an hour, because you've got a litigation hourly rate.
yeah, may I ask
should
that
put-
we take this matter up at the March
Okay,
7th
that's-
meeting, and we'll decide on what our what our terms of engagement are, and also what our interview approach will be.
I mean, it says compensation to be negotiated each appointment, reappointment, so. I mean, I think one of these should be hourly rate to be paid for solicitor council meetings, labor negotiations, and all other department heads. Or departments like the zoning board, planning board,
Right,
so.
okay. It need not be limited to one page, and to Counselor McHugh's concern, I will use the 14 font. It's not a.
Use the 14.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. It'll be okay.
Are there any matters before, any other matters before us?
Second.
The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Someone had to take on the text.
I don't know what you're doing.
Want a copy of the proposed capital?
First of all, I apologize for how much.
Yeah, I can give you a copy.
Me right
The
at.
window behind you.
Yes.
That I opened.
So,
Know why I put my jacket
That
on?
I opened.